We had been married for 10 years, yet Elena still wouldn't let me touch her. On my 32nd birthday, she slid a bank card across the marble countertop toward me. Caleb, there's $5 million in this account. Let's get a divorce. Her voice was as cold as ever, as if she were discussing a commodity that had nothing to do with her. I looked at her, this woman I had loved for a full decade, and suddenly I laughed. I didn't reach for the card. Instead, I pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared long ago from behind me. I don't want a cent, I said. Elena, I'm walking away with nothing. I have only one requirement. Sign it. Now. Immediately. The composure and indifference on Elena's face shattered the moment I produced the papers. She looked at me in disbelief, as if I were some sort of monster. Caleb Stone, what do you mean? I pushed the agreement toward her, offering a pen along with it. It means I agree to the divorce. My calmness clearly exceeded her expectations. For 10 years, I had loved her like my own life, obeying her every whim, sleeping alone every night. Everyone called me a doormat, a trophy husband, a man with no dignity. I accepted it, because I loved her. From the first moment I saw her, I loved her incurably. I thought that as long as I was good enough, one day I would melt that iceberg. But it had been 10 years, and the iceberg was still an iceberg. And I was freezing to death. Elena didn't look at the agreement. Her gaze was locked on me, scrutinizing and probing. Is there someone else? She asked, as if it were the only logical explanation. In her mind, I was the husband who came when called and left when dismissed. I couldn't possibly take the initiative to leave unless another woman gave me the courage. I tugged the corner of my mouth in a self-deprecating smile. Does it matter if there's someone else? What matters is I don't want to live this life anymore. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the traffic in downtown Manhattan. This penthouse in the city's most prime location was bought by her with Vance family money. I lived here like a kept canary. No, a canary could at least please its owner. I didn't even qualify for a second glance. Caleb, stop making a scene. Elena's voice softened, carrying a trace of imperceptible soothing. This was her usual trick. Whenever I was pushed to my limit, she would give me just enough sweetness to keep me going. A smile, a word of concern, even an accidental touch. Then, like a sunflower, I would recharge and rotate around her sun again. But today, the trick didn't work. The sun was too cold, and the sunflower had withered. I'm not making a scene. I turned around, looking at her with unusual seriousness. Elena, 10 years ago today, we got married. I told you I would spend my whole life loving you and protecting you. 10 years later, today it's my birthday, and your gift to me is $5 million and a divorce. I walked toward her step by step, each step feeling like I was trampling on my own shattered heart. Do you have any idea how I've spent these 10 years? Every lonely night, I asked myself, what exactly did I do wrong? Was I not considered enough? Was I not trying hard enough? I learned to cook for you. I handled all the social obligations you detested. I bailed your good-for-nothing brother out of jail. I treated you as my whole world, but in your eyes, what am I? One by one, the grievances buried deep in my heart surged out like a tide. My voice wasn't loud, but every word dripped with blood. Elena's face turned white, inch by inch. She probably never imagined that I, always so docile, would say such things. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but couldn't utter a word. 3 years ago, my company's capital chain broke. I begged everyone I knew, drinking until I had a stomach hemorrhage. I called you, hoping you would just come to the hospital to see me. And what did you say? I stared dead into her eyes, not missing a single micro-expression. You said, Caleb, can you grow up? Don't bother me with these trivial things. I'm busy. Do you know what you were busy with? I laughed, a sound uglier than crying. You were with your childhood sweetheart, Julian Thorne, feeding pigeons by the Seine in Paris. Your Instagram posts were hidden from me. But you forgot. Your best friend added me on Facebook. That photo was like a poisoned thorn stuck in my heart for 3 full years. The handsome, refined man, the woman smiling like a flower, and the caption, in this lifetime, meeting on a narrow path, we are destined not to be spared. In that moment, I realized that my 10 years of devotion were nothing but a massive joke. It wasn't that I didn't love you. It was that I couldn't love you anymore. If I continued to love you, I would die. The heiress of the Vance global empire falling for a poor kid was a marriage no one favored. For her, I gave up my chance at a PhD and dove headfirst in the business world. I fought desperately to prove that I, Caleb Stone, was worthy of Elena Vance. In 10 years, I went from a poor kid with nothing to a net worth of over $100 million. But in the eyes of her and her family, I was still trash. Caleb, that was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? It was as if I'd heard the world's biggest joke. You kept the pot of non-blooming clivia he gave you in our bedroom for 10 years. Is that a misunderstanding? Every year on his birthday, you lock yourself in the study for the entire night. Is that a misunderstanding? Your phone password, computer password, bank card pins are all his birthday. Is that also a misunderstanding? My questions, one after another, were like sharp knives poking holes through the hypocritical paper window between us. Elena swayed, her face as pale as paper. She held onto the sofa just to stand steady. You knew everything. Her voice trembled. Yes, I knew everything. I nodded, feeling lighter than ever before. I was just waiting for you to tell me yourself. I waited 10 years. But today, I don't want to wait anymore. I picked up the divorce agreement and the pen, shoving them into her cold hand. Elena, sign it. Set me free, and set yourself free. From now on, the sky is high and the ocean is wide. We go our separate ways. With that, I stopped looking at her, turned, and walked toward the bedroom to pack my pitifully small amount of luggage. Behind me, there was a long, dead silence. I didn't know how much time passed, long enough for me to think she had accepted this ending. I won't sign. A sharp scream pierced the silence. My hand packing clothes paused. Looking back, I saw Elena glaring at me with red eyes. The divorce agreement had been torn to shreds. The paper scraps flew around her feet like white butterflies. Caleb Stone, don't even think about it. My marriage isn't something you start when you want and end when you want. She looked like an enraged lioness, exuding a hostility I had never seen before. I looked at her state, feeling no ripples in my heart, even finding it a bit funny. 10 years. For the first time, I saw such vivid emotion in her. Not because she loved me, but because her possession was about to escape her control. I didn't argue with her. I just silently put a few changes of clothes into the suitcase. I didn't have much. In this mansion, everything was bought by her. The only thing I brought was myself. Now, I was taking myself away. Caleb, did you hear me? Seeing my indifference, Elena rushed over, snatched my suitcase, and slammed it viciously onto the floor. Without my permission, you are not allowed to go anywhere. Her chest heaved violently, tears swirling in her eyes, but stubbornly refusing to fall. I looked at her and suddenly felt very tired. Elena, do you think this is meaningful? You can keep my body, but can you keep my heart? My heart had already died on that cold night 3 years ago. Your heart. Elena acted like she heard a joke. She pointed at my chest, articulating every word. Hasn't your heart already been given to that vixen outside? Don't think I don't know about that woman named Sarah Quinn. You've been running to her shabby tea house every day lately. Do you think I'm blind? I was stunned. Sarah, the woman with 2 shallow dimples when she smiled, who brewed excellent tea. I had indeed visited her tea house a few times. But that was only because there I could find a moment of peace. I never thought anything would happen between us. Even less did I think that Elena, who usually ignored me, would know of her existence. She even had people investigate me. An indescribable nausea and sorrow instantly surged in my heart. Turns out, she didn't lack concern for me. She was just like a queen high above, monitoring everything in her territory. Any factor that might escape her control would be ruthlessly erased by her. You investigated me? My voice turned cold. Elena choked on my question, then raised her head self-righteously. I'm your wife. What's wrong with me caring about you? Caring? I laughed, my laughter full of sarcasm. For 10 years, did you care if I was full or hungry, warm or cold? Did you care if my work was going well, or if I was happy? You probably even forgot how old I am this year, didn't you? With every question I asked, Elena's face grew a shade paler. Finally, her lips trembled, and she couldn't say a word. Right, how could she remember? In her heart, I was just an insignificant accessory. Elena, we were finished a long time ago. I ignored her hysteria and picked up the suitcase from the floor again. This time, she didn't stop me. She just stood there, staring at me blankly, as if she had lost her soul. I pulled the suitcase and walked toward the door step by step. The moment my hand touched the doorknob, I stopped. I didn't look back. I'll have my lawyer draft a new divorce agreement and mail it to you. Whether you sign it or not, this divorce is happening. With that, I opened the door and walked out without looking back. Behind me came the loud crash of shattering porcelain. Immediately following was her suppressed, broken crying. The sound was shrill and despairing. I didn't stop. My heart would never hurt for her again. I didn't go to Sarah's tea house. Going to her at a time like this would only bring her trouble. I dragged my suitcase, walking aimlessly down the street. The streetlights came on, and the city's neon signs stretched my shadow long and thin. I felt like a lonely ghost abandoned by the world. My phone vibrated crazily in my pocket. I knew, without looking, it was Elena. I turned it off directly. The world instantly became quiet. I checked into a budget hotel. After a hot shower and changing into clean clothes, I felt like I had come back to life. Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling with eyes wide open. No sleepiness at all. In my brain, the last 10 years with Elena played back like a movie. The first time I saw her was at the freshman welcome gala in college. She was the valedictorian representing the graduates. A white dress, cold as the moon. Just one look and I fell. Later, I learned she was the heiress of the Vance group, the white moonlight in everyone's heart. And I was just a poor student from the mountains. The gap between us was heaven and earth. But I pursued her regardless of everything. Delivering breakfast, saving seats, writing love letters. I tried every clumsy method I could think of. She remained cold to me. I thought I had no hope. Until the eve of graduation, she suddenly agreed to date me. I was ecstatic, thinking my sincerity had moved her. Thinking back now, I was laughably naive. She wasn't moved. She just needed a shield, a reason to legitimately reject Julian Thorne. And I, this nice guy who was dead set on her, was the best candidate. Our wedding was grand. But on our wedding night, she handed me a separate room agreement. She said she had severe misophobia and wasn't used to sharing a bed. I believed it. Like a fool, I believed her for 10 years. In these 10 years, we treated each other with respect, like guests. In the eyes of outsiders, we were a model couple. Only I knew that this seemingly perfect marriage was rotting from the inside. I sighed and sat up in bed. I couldn't think anymore. If I kept thinking, I was afraid I couldn't resist going back to find her. Not because I still loved her, but because I wanted to strangle her and ask if her heart was made of stone. I turned on my phone, wanted to check the news to distract myself. As soon as it booted up, countless calls and texts flooded in. From Elena, from my in-laws, and from my brother-in-law, Ricky Vance. The content was all similar, basically telling me to hurry back and apologize to Elena, as if I were the one who did something wrong. I sneered and blocked all these numbers directly. Then, I saw a text from an unknown number. Mr. Stone, are you free? Come out for a drink. The signature was Sarah. I was surprised. I didn't know where she got my number, but her text was undoubtedly the only warmth tonight. I replied with one word. Okay. Half an hour later, I met Sarah at a lounge near the hotel. She wore a beige trench coat, her long hair draped casually over her shoulders, wearing no makeup, yet looking better than any woman with exquisite makeup I had ever seen. Seeing me, she smiled, revealing those two shallow dimples. I thought you wouldn't come. Why? I pulled out the chair opposite her and sat down. Because you don't look like the kind of man who would run out to drink with another woman after fighting with his wife. She hit the nail on the head regarding my predicament. I felt a bit awkward. We didn't just fight, I said. We divorced. Saying this, I felt the massive stone pressing on my heart for 10 years finally being moved away. Sarah was obviously stunned. She probably didn't expect me to be so candid. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to pry into your privacy. It's fine. I shook my head and poured myself a drink. Everyone will know sooner or later anyway. With the Vance family's influence, the news of my divorce from Elena would be on the city's financial headlines by tomorrow. By then, everyone would know that Caleb Stone, the gold digger who climbed up via his wife, got kicked to the curb. Thinking of this, I laughed self-deprecatingly and downed the drink. The spicy liquid slid down my throat, burning my stomach. Yet it was not 1/10,000th as painful as my heart. Actually, I found you today to apologize to you, Sarah said hesitantly. Apologize? I was confused. For my wife investigating you, I apologize. She looked at me, her eyes full of apology. I didn't know she would do that, causing you trouble. I'm really sorry. I fell silent. So, she knew everything. How did you know? I asked. Ms. Vance came to my tea house this afternoon. Sarah smiled bitterly. She gave me a check for $1 million, telling me to leave you, to stay away from you. The hand holding my glass tightened involuntarily. Elena. She was always like this, accustomed to using money to solve everything she considered a trouble. 10 years ago, she bound me with marriage. 10 years later, she wanted to use money to drive away anyone who might appear beside me. How ridiculous. Did you take it? I looked into Sarah's eyes and asked a very stupid question. Sarah didn't answer me. She just took a check out of her bag and pushed it in front of me. Exactly $1 million. I can't take it, she said. First, there is nothing improper between you and me. I have a clear conscience. Second, I find this money dirty. I looked at the check, then at Sarah's open and clear eyes, having mixed feelings. She and I were just acquaintances. Yet she understood me and respected me more than the wife who had slept under the same roof as me for 10 years. A warm current flowed slowly in my frozen heart. Thank you, I said sincerely. I should be the one saying thank you. Sarah shook her head. If it weren't for you, my tea house would have closed last month. I just remembered then. Last month, her tea house was on the verge of closing because of the remote location and poor business. After I inadvertently found out, I anonymously invested a sum of money and introduced many clients to her. It was just a small effort for me then. I never expected anything in return. I didn't expect she kept it in her heart. Just a small effort, I said. To you, it was a small effort. To me, it was a lifeline in the snow. Sarah's eyes were a bit red. That tea house is the only memento my mother left me. So, Caleb, believe it or not, I have only gratitude toward you, nothing else. I believed her. Of course, I believed her. Her eyes were like a clear spring, so clean they couldn't hold a speck of dust. Unlike Elena, her eyes were beautiful, like a deep pool, but bottomless, making it impossible to see through. I believe you, I said. We looked at each other and smiled, like old friends. That night, we talked a lot. About her tea house, my company, our pasts. For the first time, I told an outsider so many things from my heart. Words I would never say in front of Elena. Chatting with her was comfortable and relaxing. I even had an illusion. If I had met her back then, would my life be a different scene? This thought just flashed by and was extinguished by me. Life has no ifs. I'd already wasted 10 years. I couldn't make more mistakes. When leaving, Sarah said to me, Caleb, you are a good man. You deserve better. I smiled and didn't speak. A good man? Maybe. But in this world, good men are always the ones bullied the worst. Back at the hotel, I lay in bed, sleepless all night. Early the next morning, I was woken up by urgent knocking. I thought it was room service. Opening the door, what I saw was my arrogant brother-in-law, Ricky. Behind him were 2 bodyguards in black. Brother-in-law, had enough fun? Ricky looked at me sloppily, with a condescending attitude. My sister says you need to come back with me. I leaned against the doorframe, looking at him coldly. And if I don't? Ricky looked as if he'd heard a hilarious joke. He stepped forward, poking my chest with his finger. Caleb, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Everything you eat, wear, and use, what isn't from my family? Who do you think you are without my sister? Oh, right, and that trash company of yours. My sister already put legal on it yesterday. It won't be long before you're a penniless pauper. Then, let's see what you use to support that little mistress. His words were like a poison-dipped knife stabbing viciously into my heart. I suddenly grabbed the finger poking my chest and bent it back hard. Ricky let out a squeal like a slaughtered pig. The 2 bodyguards immediately rushed up. I didn't fear them at all and met them head on. 10 years. In these 10 years, for Elena, for that family, I swallowed my pride and compromised completely. They thought I was a sick cat without claws. They forgot. Before meeting Elena, I was also a young man who would fight with his life for his dignity. The hotel corridor soon became chaotic. I didn't know how many punches I took, nor how many times I hit them. I only knew that the fire suppressed in my heart for 10 years finally exploded at this moment. Until hotel security arrived and pulled us apart. My face and body were covered in injuries. Ricky was worse off than me. His nose was crooked from my punch. He covered his bleeding nose, pointing at me, screaming hoarsely, Caleb Stone, you just wait. I'll kill you. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth and gave him a bloodthirsty smile. I'm waiting. Ricky and I were both taken to the police precinct. When giving my statement, I was incredibly cooperative. Fighting and brawling, the facts were clear, I admitted it. Ricky, however, kept clamoring that he wanted me in jail. The officer got a headache from his noise and handcuffed him to the chair. Not long after, the Vance family lawyer arrived. Immediately following, my in-laws stormed in like a firestorm. My mother-in-law, Victoria Vance, who had always looked down on me, pointed at my nose and cursed the moment she entered. Caleb Stone, you ingrate. Our family was blind to let Elena marry you. Not only are you ungrateful, but you dare to hit my son. Are you even human? My high-ranking father-in-law, Richard Vance, didn't say a word, just looked at me with extremely disappointed and cold eyes, as if looking at incurable trash. I ignored their cursing and stares. I just sat quietly, like an outsider, until Elena appeared. When she arrived, it had started to drizzle outside. She wore a black trench coat, her hair damp with a few strands sticking to her pale cheeks, looking somewhat pitiful. As soon as she entered, she saw the injuries on my face. Her body trembled imperceptibly. Then, she walked past me, straight to Ricky. Ricky, are you okay? Where are you hurt? Her voice was full of undisguised distress and concern. Seeing her, Ricky immediately acted like he found his backbone, complaining aggrievedly. Sis, look at how he beat me. My nose is crooked. You have to put him in jail. Elena comforted her brother while turning her head to look at me. That look was coldness and disappointment I had never seen before. Caleb, do you have to be this cruel? I looked at her and suddenly laughed. Cruel? Elena, who is truly cruel? You brought people to the hotel to corner me, threaten me, and even go after my company. I was just acting in self-defense. Self-defense? Ricky screamed from the side. You beat the hell out of 3 of us, and you call that self-defense? That's because you're useless, I replied indifferently. Ricky nearly fainted from anger. Elena's face was also ugly to the extreme. Caleb, you've changed. She looked at me, saying word by word. You weren't like this before. The old me was docile, tolerant, never hitting back or talking back. Because I loved you, I was willing to retract all my sharp edges for you. But now I don't love you anymore. Naturally, I want to retrieve myself. People change, I said, especially after having their heart broken. Elena's body swayed again. Her mother immediately stepped up to support her, then glared at me with eyes like poison daggers. Caleb, stop playing the victim. How has our Elena wronged you? For you to trample on her like this? You live in the house she bought, drive the car she bought. Could your company be where it is today without our family's help? Now that your wings are strong, you want to kick our Elena aside and go find that vixen, don't you? I tell you, no way. Just one word from our family, and you won't be able to survive in this city. Every word from my mother-in-law was like a needle stabbing fiercely into my self-esteem. Yes, in the eyes of outsiders, Caleb Stone, was a man living off a woman. Everything I had was charity from the Vance family. I had no right to resist, no right to say no. I could only wag my tail and beg for pity like a dog. I took a deep breath, suppressing the anger surging in my heart. I looked at Elena and asked word by word, "Is this your meaning too?" Elena didn't look at me. She avoided my gaze. Her silence explained everything. My heart went completely cold. Fine, I nodded. Since you like using money and power to solve problems so much, let's play by your rules. I looked at my father-in-law, the chairman of Vance Global, Richard Vance. Chairman Vance, I admit, my company did accept investment from Vance Global in the startup phase. But that investment was in the form of equity exchange, with a formal contract signed. The dividends my company brought to Vance Global over these years have long exceeded the initial investment. Logically and ethically, Caleb Stone, owe your family nothing. I looked at my mother-in-law, Victoria. As for the house and car you mentioned, I can return them to you immediately. Although I'm not rich, I haven't reached the point where I need a woman to support me. Finally, I looked at Elena. And you, Elena, everything you gave me, clothes, watches, I can take them off and return them to you. I can leave with nothing today. Get the hell out of your house. But this divorce is happening. No one can stop me. My words were powerful and resonant. The entire interrogation room was dead silent. Everyone was stunned by my speech. They probably never imagined the soft persimmon they always stepped on would suddenly erupt with such a powerful aura. Richard's face turned extremely ugly. Victoria opened her mouth to curse, but was stopped by a look from Richard. Ricky was too scared to make another sound. Only Elena. She raised her head, staring fixedly at me. The coldness and disappointment in her eyes were gone, replaced by a complex emotion I couldn't understand. Shock, regret, and a trace of panic? Panic? Could she feel panic too? Wasn't she always high above, controlling everything? Caleb. She moved her lips, her voice hoarse. Can we not divorce? She was actually begging me. This was something I hadn't dared to imagine for 10 years. If it were before yesterday, hearing the sentence, I would have been ecstatic, throwing all grievances to the cloud nine. But now I only felt irony. No, I rejected her decisively. Elena, it's too late. My heart is already dead. Killed by you, by your family, with your own hands. After saying that, I stopped looking at her and said to the officer next to me, Officer, I admit guilt. Handle it however it should be handled. Anyway, I had nothing left to linger for in this world. Rather than being suppressed everywhere by the Vance family outside, I'd rather stay in jail for some peace. However, the development of events exceeded my expectations again. The Vance family lawyer, after whispering a few words to Richard, actually dropped all charges against me. They chose to settle out of court. I was released without charge. When I walked out of the precinct, it was already dark. It was still raining, a drizzle like the heavens crying for me. I stood on the steps, looking at this strange world, feeling somewhat lost for a moment. Where should I go? Just then, a black Bentley slowly stopped in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Elena's pale and haggard face. Get in, she said. I'll take you back. I didn't move. No need, I said. We have no relationship anymore. Caleb. Elena raised her volume, a trace of pleading in her voice. I'm begging you, okay? Let's talk. I looked at the red veins in her eyes and that humbleness I had never seen before, and my heart eventually softened a bit. 10 years as husband and wife. Even without love, there should be a decent closure. I opened the car door and got in. The heater was on, making it very warm. Yet, it couldn't drive away the chill in my heart. The car sped along and finally stopped by the river. This was the place of our first date. Back then, I was so nervous my palms were sweating. Back then, although she was still cold, she would at least smile at me. Things have changed, and people have changed. Why do you have to do this? Elena broke the silence. Her voice carried a heavy nasal tone. Why must we divorce? I turned my head to look at her. The neon lights outside the window cast mottled shadows on her face, making her look somewhat unreal. You should ask yourself that question, I said. For 10 years, did you give me the respect and warmth a husband should have? Did you give me a home? Elena's body flinched. She lowered her head, her hands tightly clasped together. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know I failed you all these years. But I didn't mean to. I just have my own difficulties. Difficulties? Difficulties again. 10 years ago, she used this excuse to make me sign the separate room agreement. 10 years later, did she still want to use this excuse to keep me? I don't want to hear your difficulties. I interrupted her. Elena, I'm tired. I don't want to guess anymore. I just want to live a few days of normal life. No deception, no concealment, no endless waiting and disappointment. My words made Elena's face turn a few shades paler. She looked up, tears finally breaking the dam. Caleb, give me one more chance, okay? She grabbed my hand, crying. Her hand was bone-chillingly cold. I'll change everything. I'll be a good wife, a real wife. As long as you don't leave me. She cried like a pear blossom bathed in rain, evoking pity. Any man seeing this would soften his heart. But I just calmly, one by one, pried her fingers open. Elena, do you know? When you hear the story of the boy who cried wolf too many times, no one believes it anymore. I pushed open the car door and got out. The icy rain instantly soaked me through, yet I felt incredibly clear-headed. I stood in the rain, looking at the woman sobbing uncontrollably in the car, feeling not a shred of pity. My gentleness and love had been completely consumed in 10 years of wasted time. Goodbye, Elena. I said one last sentence to her. Then, I turned and walked into the vast curtain of rain. This time, I truly would not look back. I didn't return to the hotel. The Vance family would definitely look for me there. I needed a place they absolutely couldn't find. I thought a place. Upstate, in the Catskills, there was a spiritual retreat called the Ancient Wisdom Monastery. It was a place I accidentally discovered during college. The monastery was small and old, with only an elderly abbot, but it was quiet and could calm the mind. Over the years, whenever I was hurt completely by Elena, I would secretly run there alone to stay for a day. Listening to the Zen chants, reading scriptures, it felt like gaining a moment of salvation. I hailed a cab and headed straight for the Catskills. When I reached the foot of the mountain, it was already late at night. The rain stopped, and the air was filled with the fresh scent of earth and vegetation. I walked up the slippery mountain path step by step. Halfway up, I saw the familiar ancient monastery, looking exceptionally quiet under the moonlight. The gate was ajar, dim yellow light spilling from inside. I pushed the door and entered. In the courtyard, the old monk, Abbot Silas, was sitting under a huge Bodhi tree, boiling tea. The tea aroma curled up, full of zen. He wasn't surprised at all to see me. He just smiled at me and pointed to the cushion opposite him. You've come. I've come. I walked over and sat opposite him. Abbot Silas poured me a cup of tea. The tea was boiling hot, but I drank it in one gulp. Abbot, I'm divorced, I said. The hand of Abbot Silas, counting prayer beads, paused. Then he returned to calm. It is a tribulation and also destiny, he said. Relationships rise and fall. It is all predetermined. I gave a bitter laugh. But what about my 10 years? What was that? It was cultivation. Abbot Silas looked at me, his gaze profound, as if he could see through all my pain and confusion. In this worldly marriage, you have tasted greed, anger, ignorance, love, hatred, and desire, and suffered the pain of wanting what you cannot have, meeting those you resent, and parting from those you love. Now you've seen through it and let go. This is the completion of merit. Completion of merit? I chewed on these words repeatedly. Yes, I loved, I hated, I expected, and I despaired. Now, everything is over. My heart is like a dry well, unable to ripple anymore. Isn't this seeing through and letting go? Abbot, I want to stay here for a while, I said. Is that okay? Abbot Silas smiled. The monastery is a place of purity. You can stay as long as you like. Only, I have simple food here. I fear you won't be used to it. As long as my heart is at peace, it doesn't matter what I eat. That night, Abbot Silas and I talked all night under the Bodhi tree. He didn't tell me too many profound philosophies. He just listened to my outpourings like a kind elder and answered my doubts. When dawn was breaking, I felt the gloom suppressed in my heart for 10 years finally dissipate. My whole being became lighter and clearer than ever before. It seemed I was truly about to attain enlightenment. In the following days, I stayed in the ancient wisdom monastery. Every day, following Abbot Silas, I swept the floor, carried water, chanted scriptures, and meditated. I turned off my phone, cutting off all contact with the outside world, as if Caleb Stone no longer existed in this world. Life in the mountains was austere but tranquil. Watching the sunrise and sunset, the clouds rolling and unrolling every day, my heart opened up. I began to reflect on the first half of my life. I found that for 30-odd years, I seemed to have been living for others, for my parents' expectations, for Elena's happiness, for the eyes of the world. I had never truly lived for myself for a single day. Now, I finally could. I didn't need to run that company that exhausted me physically and mentally. I didn't need to please those who looked down on me. Even less did I need to beg for that love I would never get. I was free. This feeling was so good. I thought I would spend my whole life in the monastery like this. Until that day, an uninvited guest arrived, breaking the silence. That afternoon, I was chopping wood in the backyard. A young novice ran over and said to me, "Mr. Stone, someone is looking for you outside." I was surprised. Who could it be? The Vance family shouldn't be able to find this place. Could it be Sarah? I put down the axe, wiped my sweat, and followed the novice to the front courtyard. Then, I saw a person I never wanted to see again in my life. Julian Thorne, Elena's childhood sweetheart. He wore a tailored casual suit, his hair combed meticulously, a gentle smile on his face. The whole person looked like a male lead walking out a romance drama. Contrasting sharply with me, the monk, wearing robes and smelling of sweat. He saw me with no surprise at all. Only that gentle smile held a trace of imperceptible, condescending scrutiny. "Caleb, long time no see." He spoke first. I didn't acknowledge him. I turned to leave. "Don't you want to know why Elena wouldn't let you touch her?" His sentence made my steps stop abruptly. This question had been a thorn in my heart for 10 years. I had fantasized about the answer countless times. She didn't love me. She had psychological trauma. She had a physical illness. But no guess could fully explain all her behaviors. Now, the answer was right in front of me, yet I was a bit afraid to uncover it. I was afraid the answer would be even crueler than I imagined. "I don't want to know," I replied coldly. "She and I are over." "Over?" Julian acted like he heard a joke. "Caleb, you are too naive. Do you think by divorcing, you can get rid of the Vance family? Get rid of Elena? I tell you, impossible. As long as she doesn't let go, you can never dream of peace. As long as she doesn't let go, you can never dream of peace." His words made my heart sink. I understood Elena's paranoia. What she wanted, she never failed to get. Before it was me. Now it was this marriage she refused to let go of. "What exactly do you want to say?" I turned around, looking at him impatiently. "I want to make a deal with you." The smile on Julian's face became somewhat unfathomable. "I help you get rid of Elena completely. The condition is you transfer all the shares of Apex Innovations you hold to me." Apex Innovations. That was the company I built from scratch. It was the only thing in these 10 years that proved myself. Although the Vance family invested, I was the largest shareholder with absolute control. He actually wanted my company. Why do you think I would agree? I sneered. Because I know Elena's biggest secret. Julian walked up to me, lowering his voice. A secret sufficient to make you completely give up on her. His eyes flickered with the light of calculation and triumph. Looking at him, I suddenly felt a strong premonition. This secret would absolutely overturn everything I knew. I was silent for a long time. Reason told me I should turn around and leave immediately, to not have any involvement with these people again. But the unwilling demon at the bottom of my heart was screaming madly, wanting to know the truth. Finally, I couldn't resist the temptation. "Speak." I heard my dry voice. Julian smiled like a cat that stole the cream. 10 years ago, I had a very serious illness. The doctor said I wouldn't live past 6 months. To save me, Elena went to pray to the gods on the mountain. She swore a poisonous oath. If I could live, she was willing to exchange her lifelong marital happiness for it. She would marry a man she didn't love, but who loved her, and she would never consummate the marriage with him for life, keeping herself pure for me. Every word Julian said was like a heavy hammer smashing viciously onto my heart. My brain went blank. The whole world seemed to be spinning. I held onto a nearby pillar just to keep from falling. So, that was it. I didn't lose to Julian. I lost to Elena's ridiculous and pathetic self-sacrifice. My 10 years of marriage, 10 years of love, 10 years of sleeping alone. It was all just a bargaining chip she used to exchange with the heavens for another man. I was just a tool chosen by her to complete this transaction. How absurd. How ridiculous. Uffed. A sweet, metallic taste suddenly surged up my throat. I coughed a mouthful of blood onto the bluestone slab in front of me. Darkness fell before my eyes, and I lost consciousness completely. The moment I fell, I seemed to see Abbot Silas's anxious face, and also seemed to see Julian's successful, indifferent smiling face. I dreamed a very long dream. In the dream, I returned to my college days. The sunshine was just right, the breeze not too dry. Elena wore a white dress, standing under the camphor tree, smiling at me. She said, "Caleb, let's be together." I was as happy as a fool, spinning her around in circles. Then, the scene changed. It became our wedding night. She wore a red wedding dress, beautiful beyond compare. Yet she handed me a cold agreement. She said, "Caleb, sorry, I can't." Then, endless lonely nights. I lay alone on the cold bed, listening to the even breathing from the next room. My heart cooled little by little, freezing into ice, shattering into dust. Finally, the image froze on Julian's mocking face. He said, "Caleb, you are just a tool. A tool. I am a tool." Ah! I woke up from the nightmare, sitting up abruptly. My chest heaved violently, cold sweat soaking my robe. "Amapa!" A chant sounded in my ear. I turned my head and saw Abbot Silas sitting by my bed, counting beads in his hand. "You're awake." His voice was peaceful and serene, possessing a power to soothe the soul. I looked around, finding myself lying in a Zen room in the monastery. The air was filled with the faint scent of sandalwood. How long did I sleep? My voice was terribly hoarse. 3 days and 3 nights. Abbot Silas said, "Anxiety attacked your heart and damaged your vitals. Had we not discovered it in time, I fear." He didn't continue, but I knew I almost died. Died inside the massive lie woven for me by the woman I loved for 10 years. I leaned against the headboard, looking out the window. Sunlight shone through the lattice, casting mottled shadows on the floor. Very warm, but my heart was a cold ruin. "Abbot, tell me, am I ridiculous?" I spoke, my voice carrying a tremor even I hadn't noticed. For a woman who didn't love me, I wasted 10 years, and, in the end, I made myself look like neither man nor ghost. "Foolish child," Abbot Silas sighed. "The word love hurts the most. How many heroes in this world have failed to pass this trial of passion? Why must you be so harsh on yourself?" I didn't speak. I understood the logic, but I just couldn't get over the hurdle in my heart. I closed my eyes. My mind was full of Elena's face. Her cold face, stubborn face, fragile face, crying face. Every face was like a knife, repeatedly cutting my heart. I hated her. I hated why she was so cruel. Why chose me? Why use my deep affection to pave the way for her white moonlight? But hating to the extreme, a trace of sadness was born. Wasn't she also a pitiful person, betting her lifelong happiness for an uncertain future? For 10 years, she guarded a sexless marriage with a man she didn't love. Did she feel good in her heart? No, I shouldn't make excuses for her. Pitiful people must have hateful qualities. Her pity was no reason for her to hurt me. "Abbot, I've decided." I opened my eyes, my gaze becoming unusually firm. "I'm going down the mountain." Abbot Silas looked at me, seemingly not surprised at all. Thought it through. I nodded. Some things must have closure. Some debts must be paid. I couldn't just let it go. I couldn't let my 10 years of youth and love become a joke for no reason. I wanted to go back. I wanted to ask clearly in front of Elena. I wanted to make her pay the price for what she did. Abbot Silas didn't persuade me otherwise. He just handed me a set of clean clothes. "Go. Ties to the world remain. They must eventually be resolved. Just remember, do not let hatred blind your true heart." I bowed deeply to Abbot Silas. "Thank you for your wisdom, Abbot." Putting on the clothes, I walked out of the Zen room. Standing in the monastery courtyard, I looked back at the benevolent Buddha statue. Before, I always felt Buddha was high above, untouched by worldly things. Now I understood. Buddha was once human too, had also struggled and suffered in this red dust. Only by experiencing all this could one finally see through, let go, and attain the way. I was not a Buddha yet. I was just a mortal who had just crawled out of hell. My cultivation had just begun. On the way down the mountain, I called my lawyer. Lawyer Davis handled 2 things for me. First, compile all documents on Apex Innovations and send them to me. Second, help me book an appointment with Mr. Richard Vance, chairman of Vance Global. Just say his son-in-law wants to discuss a business deal with him. Lawyer Davis on the other end was clearly shocked by my words, but he didn't ask much, just replied, "Okay, Mr. Stone." Hanging up, I looked at the city below the mountain. There lay my battlefield. Elena, Julian, the Vance family. Are you ready? Caleb Stone am back. I didn't go directly to find Elena. I knew she must be looking for me everywhere like a headless fly. I first went back to my own apartment. It was a small 2-bedroom I bought with my own earned money. Although small, it was a place truly belonging to me. I cleaned myself up properly, shaved, and changed into a suit. Looking at the man in the mirror who was slightly haggard but whose eyes were unusually sharp, I nodded with satisfaction. This is me, Caleb Stone, in my true form. That afternoon, Lawyer Davis sent me the materials on Apex Innovations and the appointment time with Richard Vance. Time, tomorrow morning at 10. Location, Vance Global Headquarters. I looked at the message on my phone and sneered. Richard Vance, this father-in-law who always looked down on me, finally condescended to see me. Presumably, Elena went back and told him something. Or perhaps Julian couldn't wait to make a move on me. Very good. I like to see what tricks they want to play. The next day, I arrived at Vance Global on time. The receptionist was obviously stunned seeing me. Probably didn't expect this legendary ex-son-in-law kicked out by the Vance family would dare to appear here so grandly. "I'm here to see Chairman Vance. I have an appointment." I spoke faintly. The receptionist snapped out of it and quickly dialed the internal line. Soon, Richard's secretary came down to get me. The secretary led me to the chairman's office on the top floor. Pushing the door open, I saw not only Richard, but also my former mother-in-law, Victoria, and Elena. She had lost a lot of weight, her face pale, eyes swollen, looking extremely haggard. Seeing me, she stood up abruptly like she grabbed a life-saving straw. "Caleb, you're finally willing to see me." Her voice was full of surprise and excitement. I ignored her. My gaze fell directly on Richard in the main seat. "Chairman Vance, I came today to discuss a business deal with you." My straightforwardness stunned everyone present. Richard frowned, clearly very dissatisfied with my attitude. "Caleb, I heard about you and Elena." He spoke in a deep voice, posing as an elder. "Between husband and wife, arguments are temporary. There's no need to take it to the step of divorce. Go back with Elena first. If there's anything, let's sit down as a family and talk it over properly." "A family?" I almost laughed out loud. "Chairman Vance, I think you're mistaken. Elena and I will soon not be family. I didn't come today to discuss family matters with you. I am here representing Apex Innovations to discuss cooperation with Vance Global." My words made Richard's face sink completely. "Caleb Stone, what do you mean?" Victoria on the side couldn't help but start scolding. "You little ingrate, wings got strong, and you want to disassociate from our Vance family? Don't forget who invested money for you to open your company. We can withdraw capital anytime and leave you with nothing." "Is that so?" I pulled out a chair, sat down calmly, and pushed a document in front of Richard. "Chairman Vance, I think you should take a look at this first." Richard suspiciously picked up the document. With just one glance, his face changed instantly. That document was the latest equity structure report of Apex Innovations and a professional analysis drafted by Lawyer Davis regarding the risk assessment of Vance investment. The report clearly showed that after several rounds of financing dilution and my personal increased holdings, Vance Global's shares in Apex had dropped from the initial 30% to less than 15%. And I personally held 51%, possessing absolute control. More importantly, the analysis report pointed out that the core technology Apex was currently developing, the Prometheus AI system, once successful, would disrupt the entire industry with unlimited market valuation. But the R&D of this technology had also entered the most cash-burning stage. If the Vance family withdrew capital now, they would not only lose their previous investment entirely, but also completely miss a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to become an industry giant. Richard was a businessman. He knew the weight of this report better than anyone. His hands began to tremble unconsciously. He raised his head, looking at me in disbelief. He probably never imagined that this soft-rice man he always looked down on, who only knew how to revolve around his daughter, had unknowingly grown into a commercial rival, even he had to take seriously. When did you start planning this?" His voice was dry and hoarse. "Starting from a night 3 years ago when Elena refused to come to the hospital to see me in order to accompany Julian." I answered indifferently. That night, I lay on the cold hospital bed and thought a lot. I realized that blind devotion and pleasing could not exchange for respect and love. To live with dignity in this family, In this world, I must possess sufficient power belonging to myself. From that day on, I began my 3-year layout. I used the identity of the Vance son-in-law to contact many contacts and resources. I invested all the company's profits into technology R&D and share buybacks. I was like a lurker, silently accumulating strength, just waiting for an opportunity to completely break free from the shackles. Now, the opportunity had come. Richard was too angry to speak. Victoria, beside him, looked at me like she saw a ghost. You scheming man. Our Elena was truly blind. I ignored her cursing. I just looked at Richard and continued. Chairman Vance, my intention is simple. I want Vance Global to acquire my 51% shares of Apex at 3 times the market price. Or I acquire your 15% shares at the same price. Pick one. I give you 1 day to consider. My words exploded in the office like a heavy bomb. Everyone was stunned. Apex's current market valuation exceeded $2 billion. 51% shares would be over $1 billion. 3 times the price would be over $3 billion. This would almost hollow out more than half of Vance Global's liquid assets. And if they sold the shares to me, it would mean completely giving up this piece of fat meat about to reach their mouths. Whichever choice, for Richard, was a massive hemorrhage. Caleb, you're crazy. Elena finally couldn't help screaming at me. Why do you have to do this? Do you need money? I can give it to you. However much you want. I can give it to you. Just don't treat my dad like this. Don't treat the family like this. She thought I was taking revenge, that I was using this method to vent my dissatisfaction with them. How ridiculous. I don't need money. I looked at her, my eyes devoid of warmth. I just want to take back what should belong to me. Dignity. For these 10 years, I worked like an ox and a horse for your family, bearing burdens without complaint. I gave you all my youth, passion, and love. But how did you treat me? You treated me like a joke, a tool to be trampled on at will. Now, I just want to settle a score with you using the method you believe in most. Is that wrong? My words left Elena speechless. The blood drained from her face. She looked at me, her eyes full of strangeness and fear, as if knowing me for the first time. Caleb, you can't do this. She muttered to herself, tears falling like broken strings of pearls. Did you forget how you promised me back then? You said you would always be good to me, never leave me. I didn't forget. I interrupted her. But I also said, my kindness is only for those who are worthy. And you are not worthy. This sentence, like the sharpest knife, stabbed fiercely into Elena's heart. Her body trembled violently, almost unable to stand steady. Damn, Mom. She looked desperately at Richard and Victoria, hoping they could help her. But at this moment, those 2 parents who always treated her like the apple of their eye were unable to protect themselves, their faces ugly to the extreme. Richard stared dead at me, eyes looking like they would spew fire. Caleb Stone, this is extortion. You can think that. I shrugged indifferently. Business is like a battlefield, isn't it? That's what you taught me. Richard slammed the table in anger, standing up abruptly. Do you really think I, Richard Vance, grew up scared? $3 billion? I tell you, I won't give you a cent. Worst case, the fish dies and the net breaks. I'll withdraw capital right now, and I'll use all connections to blacklist you. I'll make sure Apex gets 0 financing. I'll make you a complete pauper. He was stern in voice and countenance, looking ready to fight me to the death. If it were the old me, I might really have been scared by him. But now I just found it funny. Chairman Vance, you seem to have forgotten. I stood up calmly, adjusting my suit collar. Times have changed. Now is the era where technology is king. As long as I have the Prometheus system, people wanting to invest in me could line up from here to the Hudson River. As for the blacklisting you mentioned, I walked up to him, leaned down, looked straight into his eyes, and said word by word, you can certainly try. See in the end, whose fish dies and whose net breaks. With that, I stopped looking at him and turned to walk toward the door. Oh, forgot to tell you. Walking to the door, I stopped, turned back, and gave them a brilliant smile. That evidence Julian holds about my wife entering a fake marriage with me to extend his life was given to him by me. Of course, it was forged. I just wanted to see what your reaction would be after knowing this truth. And, incidentally, to see if he would choose to betray you for my company. Looking at it now, the result is quite satisfactory. My words detonated in the office like an atomic bomb. Richard and Victoria instantly petrified, and Elena jerked her head up, staring at me with eyes like she was looking at a devil. Her lips trembled, unable to say a single word. Yes, she could never imagine that difficulty she firmly believed in, which pained her for 10 years, was actually a complete lie orchestrated by me. I was the true mastermind. I looked at her face written with shock, regret, and despair, feeling not a bit of pleasure in my heart. Only a dead silence of desolation. Only a dead silence of desolation. Elena, you forced me to do all this. It was you who personally turned me from a fool who loved you like life into a cold-blooded devil. Now, the game has just begun. I smiled silently at her, then opened the door and walked out. Behind me was Elena's heart-rending, broken scream. I didn't return to the apartment, but went directly to Sarah's tea house. Pushing open the quaint wooden door, the wind chimes tinkled. Sarah was sitting by the window, looking down at a book. Sunlight spilled over her, shrouding her whole being in a layer of soft halo. Years are quiet and good. These 4 words unconsciously popped up in my mind. She heard the sound, looked up, saw me, and her eyes lit up. You're here. Her voice, like a clear spring, instantly washed away the hostility on me. I walked over and sat opposite her. Waited long. No, I just arrived too. She put down the book and skillfully began to brew tea. Everything done? She asked. Amen. I nodded. Went fairly smoothly. I simply told her everything that happened at Vance Global, including using the forged truth to test Julian and Elena. I thought she would find me scheming and despicable. But after listening, she just looked at me quietly, with no disdain in her eyes. Only heartache. All these years. You must have been very bitter, right? She asked softly. One sentence caused my mental defenses to collapse instantly. All my strength and pretense became vulnerable in front of her. I lowered my head, not wanting her to see my reddening eyes. It's all in the past, I said. Yes, it's all in the past. Sarah pushed the brewed tea in front of me. It will get better. I picked up the teacup and took a sip. The tea fragrance was cold and crisp, the aftertaste sweet. Just like her, warm and healing. We didn't speak again, just sat quietly drinking tea. Outside the window was the noisy city. Inside was a peaceful small world belonging only to the 2 of us. I suddenly felt this might be the life I had always pursued. Simple, calm, with someone who understands me by my side. Sarah, I spoke, breaking the silence. She looked up at me. When this is all over, Before I could finish, the tea house door was kicked open. Elena rushed in like a mad lioness. Her eyes were red, hair messy, tears still on her face. Whereas any trace of her usual ice goddess appearance. As soon as she entered, she saw Sarah and me. That look seemed ready to swallow us alive. Caleb Stone, you liar. She screamed and lunged at me. Why did you treat me like this? Why lie to me? I didn't dodge. I let her fists fall on me like rain. I didn't even feel pain. My heart had long gone numb. Seeing this, Sarah quickly stood up, wanting to pull her away. Ms. Vance, calm down. Get lost. Elena Shovit Sarath. The force was so great that Sarah stumbled and hit the corner of the table behind her. Ah! Sarah cried out in pain, clutching her waist and squatting down. Seeing this scene, my eyes instantly turned red. I fiercely grabbed Elena's wrist and flung her aside. Elena, Vance, are you crazy? I rushed over to help Sarah up. How are you? Are you okay? Sarah's face was a bit pale, fine beads of sweat seeping from her forehead. I'm okay. She forced a smile at me. Just seems I twisted my waist. I looked at her enduring the pain, my heart aching beyond measure. I turned my head, looking at Elena with a cold gaze I had never had before. Apologize, I said. Apologize to her. Elena was scared back a step by the killing intent in my eyes. But she quickly reacted. Jealousy and anger made her completely lose her reason. Apologize? For what? She pointed at Sarah, screaming. This vixen seduced my husband, destroyed my family. Me not tearing her face off is letting her off easy. Smack! A crisp slap resounded through the entire tea house. I acted. In my life, for the first time, I hit a woman. Elena covered her face, looking at me in disbelief. You hit me? Her voice was trembling. I hit you. I stepped forward, forcing her to look at me. Elena, I'm warning you. You can insult me, trample on me, but you cannot touch her. Otherwise, I will make you regret coming into this world. My words were like an ice pick stabbing into Elena's heart. Seeing me protecting Sarah, seeing the undisguised care and distress for another woman in my eyes, she finally broke down. Why? She slumped to the floor, wailing. Why did it become like this? We clearly weren't like this. Yes. Why did it become like this? I wanted to ask this question too. Looking at this woman I once loved to the bone, now becoming so unrecognizable and hysterical, I felt no pleasure in my heart. Only endless sorrow. Boss, what happened here? The tea house staff heard the commotion and ran over. Nothing. I said to him, please escort this lady out. In the future, I don't wish to see her here again. The staff looked at the weird atmosphere between the 3 of us, daring not ask more. and quickly went up to help Elena. I won't go. Elena grabbed my pant leg like a crazy person. Caleb, you can't do this to me. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Forgive me, okay? Let's start over. As long as you come back to me, I'll do anything you want. She cried and begged, putting down all her pride and self-esteem. If it were before, I would definitely soften. But now I only felt nausea. Too late. I kicked her hand away. Elena, from the moment you pushed Sarah, even the last bit of sentiment between us was gone. I stopped looking at her, directly picked up Sarah, and walked out. Caleb. Behind me came Elena's despairing scream. You will regret this. You will definitely regret this. I didn't look back, carrying this woman in my arms who suffered an undeserved disaster for me. I walked out of the tea house step by step. The sunlight outside was a bit blinding. I narrowed my eyes, feeling like I'd been reborn. Yes, I won't regret it. The one regretting should be her, Elena. I took Sarah to the hospital. The doctor checked and said it was just soft tissue contusion, no bone damage. A few days of rest would heal it. I breathed a sigh of relief. In the hospital room, while peeling an apple for her, I said, sorry for letting you suffer. Sarah leaned against the headboard and smiled at me. You've said that many times already. And the one who should say sorry isn't you. I knew she meant Elena. But ultimately, all this started because of me. If not for me, she wouldn't have been dragged into this dispute at all. When you're discharged, let me move your tea house to a new place, I said. Move to downtown, the best location. No need. Sarah shook her head. I like that place now, it's quiet. But Elena might. Soldiers come, generals block. Water comes, earth dams. Sarah interrupted me, a resilience inconsistent with her appearance in her eyes. I, Sarah Quinn, am not a soft persimmon for anyone to pinch. I looked at her, a warm current surging in my heart. This woman could always bring me surprise and emotion inadvertently. Okay, I nodded. From now on, no matter what happens, I'll be by your side. This sentence, I said with extreme seriousness. It was both a promise and an oath. Sarah's face reddened slightly, avoiding my gaze. The atmosphere in the room instantly became somewhat ambiguous. Just then, my phone rang. It was Lawyer Davis. Mr. Stone, Richard Vance folded. Lawyer Davis's voice carried a trace of excitement. He agreed to acquire all your shares at a price of $3 billion. But he has a condition. What condition? I asked. He hopes you can step forward to clarify the reason for your divorce from Ms. Vance, taking all responsibility onto yourself. Simply put, he hopes you leave with nothing and voluntarily take on the infamy of cheating within marriage and abandoning your wife. Listening, I sneered. Richard Vance, truly an old fox. Even at this time, he didn't forget to calculate me. He wanted to use money to buy the Vance family's reputation, to buy Elena's innocence, and incidentally stomp me, Caleb Stone, completely into the mud, never to turn over. You tell him, I said to the phone, word by word. I can take a little less money, but my reputation I won't yield an inch. I want Elena to personally apologize to me and to Sarah in front of the media. Otherwise, this deal is void. We meet in court. Lawyer Davis on the other end fell silent for a moment. Mr. Stone, are you sure you want to do this? If so, there will truly be no turning back between you and the Vance family. I'm sure, I said. I just want everyone to know it wasn't Caleb Stone who abandoned her. It was Elena Vance who was unworthy of my love. Hanging up, I saw Sarah looking at me with a complex expression. Am I very bad? I smiled self-deprecatingly. No. Sarah shook her head. You are just taking back the justice that should belong to you. No one has the right to stand on the moral high ground to accuse a person whose heart has been broken. Her understanding was like a beam of light, illuminating the darkest corner of my heart. I couldn't help extending my hand to hold hers. Her hand was warm and soft, completely different from Elena's bone-chilling hand. Sarah, thank you, I said. Thank you for appearing in my life. Sarah didn't pull her hand back. She just looked at me and nodded gently. The layer of paper between us was completely pierced at this moment. In the following days, while caring for Sarah in the hospital, I waited for the Vance family's reply. I thought Richard would fight me to the end for the family face. Unexpectedly, on the third day, I received a call from Lawyer Davis. The Vance family agreed. They agreed to let Elena hold a press conference and apologize publicly. This result surprised me a bit, but soon I figured out. Richard was a businessman. Profit was paramount. Compared to the future of Vance Global, $3 billion was clear which was heavier. As for Elena's reputation, probably in his eyes, it was just a chip that could be exchanged. Thinking of this, I couldn't help feeling a trace of sadness for Elena. Born into such a family, wasn't she also a pitiful person with no control over herself? The press conference was set for a week later. Location, the presentation hall of Vance Global. That day, I attended with a recovered Sarah. As soon as we appeared, we attracted the flashbulbs of all media. I wore a crisp suit, my expression calm. Sarah wore a simple, elegant dress, quietly accompanying me. We looked like a perfect pair. Soon, Elena also walked out accompanied by Richard and Victoria. She wore a black suit dress, wearing exquisite makeup trying to cover her haggardness. But her red swollen eyes and pale face betrayed her. She walked to the podium, looked at the dark mass of reporters below, and me sitting in the first row, her body trembling imperceptibly. Then, she took a deep breath and picked up the microphone. "Hello, everyone. I am Elena Vance." Her voice spread through the hall via the microphone. "Today, I hold this press conference to clarify the divorce turmoil between me and my husband, Caleb Stone. First, our divorce was not because of so-called third party. Ms. Sarah Quinn and my husband are just friends. The rumors circulating online about my husband cheating are false information. The real reason for our divorce lies with me." Saying this, she paused, her gaze falling on me. That look was full of regret and pain. It was me, in this 10-year marriage, who failed to fulfill the duties of a wife. It was me who hurt my husband's feelings again and again. It was me who personally pushed away the man who loved me most in this world. Here, I want to say to my ex-husband, Mr. Caleb Stone, I'm sorry. Her voice choked. Tears slid down her cheeks, ruining her makeup. I also want to say sorry to Ms. Sarah Quinn, who was hurt because of my impulse. I shouldn't have vented my personal emotions on an innocent person. I feel ashamed and sorry for my actions. With that, she bowed deeply in the direction of Sarah and me. The whole venue was in an uproar. No one expected this divorce drama of the century to end in such a way. The high and mighty Vance heiress actually lowered her head to admit her mistake to her gold-digger ex-husband and a woman she treated as a mistress in front of the whole world. This was absolutely the most explosive news of the year. I looked at the woman crying uncontrollably on stage, feeling not a bit of pleasure in my heart, only a kind of settled exhaustion. It's over. The love-hate entanglement spanning 10 years between her and me finally drew a period today. I stood up, took Sarah's hand, and under everyone's gaze, turned and left the venue. I didn't look back at Elena again. I knew, from now on, we were people of two different worlds. My world was sunny and blooming, and hers only had endless regret and loneliness left. The news of my divorce from Elena and her public apology at the press conference quickly ignited the entire internet. Public opinion took a 180-degree turn. I went from a despised scumbag to a sympathized victim, and Elena fell from the altar of a high and mighty goddess to an object of public ridicule. All this had nothing to do with me anymore. I received the $3 billion paid by the Vance family and transferred all shares of Apex Innovations. I had no attachment. That company carried too much of my ambition and pain. Now, I just wanted to be an ordinary, free person. I gave myself a long vacation, taking Sarah to travel around the world. We went to the Eiffel Tower in Paris, the Water City of Venice, the blue and white churches of Santorini. We threw away our phones, forgot time, enjoying our world of two like the most ordinary couple. During the journey, our feelings also heated up rapidly. Sarah was a very good travel companion. Learned, funny, kind, considerate. With her, I never felt bored. My heart, under her daily company and healing, slowly walked out of the shadows of the past. I began to believe in love again. Under the sunset of Santorini, I proposed to her. I didn't prepare a diamond ring the size of a pigeon egg, nor did I organize any romantic ceremony. I just held her hand, looked in her eyes, and seriously said to her, "Sarah, marry me, okay?" She cried harder than any time I'd seen, but her face wore the most brilliant smile. Crying while nodding, she said, "Yes." 3 months later, we held a wedding in a small seaside chapel. No friends or family invited, just the two of us and a pastor witnessing for us. Under God's witness, we exchanged rings and swore a lifelong oath. At that moment, watching Sarah in her wedding dress smiling at me, I felt I was the happiest man in the world. Married life was plain but warm. We bought a house by the sea. Every day, watching the sunrise together, walking together, cooking together. Sarah opened a new tea house near our home. Business was lukewarm, but she enjoyed it. I became a house husband, cooking delicious food for her in different ways every day. We were like a celestial couple living in seclusion. I thought such days would last until old age. Until that day, an unexpected person broke this peace. It was Julian. He found us. That day, I was trimming flowers in the yard, and he suddenly appeared in front of me like a ghost. He was much more haggard than the last time we met. Hair messy, beard unshaven, clothes wrinkled. Completely devoid of the dashing gentleman look from before. Caleb, he spoke, his voice terribly hoarse. I've been looking for you for a long time. I put down the shears, looking at him coldly. What are you looking for me for? Between you and me, there should be nothing to talk about. No. Julian shook his head, a madness I couldn't understand in his eyes. There is. I want you to give Elena back to me. I felt like I heard a huge joke. Are you crazy? How would I know where Elena is? Since the divorce, I haven't seen her again. No, Julian's emotions suddenly became agitated. Since you left, she locked herself at home, seeing no one. Not me, not her parents, no one. She's dying. The doctor says she has severe depression and anorexia. She's now so thin she's just a bag of bones. This is all your fault. He pointed at me, screaming hoarsely. If you hadn't appeared, if you hadn't divorced her, she wouldn't have become like this. Caleb, you must go back and save her. Watching his appearance of being crazy for love, I only felt it absurd and ridiculous. Julian, get this straight. First, Elena and I have no relationship anymore. Her life or death has nothing to do with me. Second, what made her like this today isn't me. It's you people. It's you. It's her. It's your ridiculous and selfish love. If it weren't for your illness back then, if she hadn't sworn that poisonous oath, if you hadn't treated me like a tool, there wouldn't be this 10-year entanglement between us. So, put away your hypocritical face. You don't love her. You're just unwilling. Unwilling that the princess you held in your palm eventually withered because of another man. My words were like a knife stabbing. It's your ridiculous and selfish love. If it weren't for your illness back then, if she hadn't sworn that poisonous oath, if you hadn't treated me like a tool, there wouldn't be this 10-year entanglement between us. So, put away your hypocritical face. You don't love her. You're just unwilling. Unwilling that the princess you held in your palm eventually withered because of another man. My words were like a knife stabbing fiercely into Julian's heart. He staggered back a few steps, his face pale as paper. No, it's not like that, he muttered, seeming unable to accept this fact. I love her. I've always loved her. Is that so? I sneered. Then why, when she needed you most, did you choose to go abroad? Why, after she married me, did you still maintain ties with her, giving her countless, unrealistic fantasies? If you really loved her, you should have either taken her away or completely let go, letting her start a new life. Instead of being like now, enjoying the continuation of life she brought you all, pushing her to me when she needs you to take responsibility. Julian Thorne, you are the most selfish, cowardly man I have ever seen. My words completely crushed Julian's last psychological defense. He kneeled in front of me with a thud. A grown man, crying like a child. I was wrong. Caleb, I was really wrong. I beg you, go see her, okay? The only person she wants to see now is you. The doctor said only you can save her. I beg you. He hugged my leg, pleading bitterly. I looked at him, feeling not a shred of sympathy. If you knew today would come, why did you act so back then? I kicked him away. Get out. I only said 2 words. Then, I turned and went back into the house. I didn't want to see him again, nor did I want to hear any news about Elena. Her life was her own choice. My life had already turned a new chapter. We were destined to go separate ways. I thought Julian would stop there. Unexpectedly, the next day, he came again, and he brought Richard and Victoria. The 2 elders looked much older than when we last met. Hair mostly white, faces full of wrinkles, no longer having the high spirits of the past. As soon as they saw me, they knelt down with a thud. Caleb, we beg you, save Elena. She's almost gone. Victoria cried with old tears crisscrossing her face. Before, we were wrong. We looked down on people. We apologized to you. We kowtowed to you. Richard, this man who never lowered his head in his life, also had red eyes. Saying that, he really knocked a loud head on the ground. I was scared by this display and quickly stepped back a few steps. What are you doing? Get up. If you don't agree, we won't get up. Victoria hugged my legs tightly, snot and tears flowing. I looked at these 3 people who were once high above, but now humble as dust, feeling mixed emotions. Just then, Sarah walked out of the house. Seeing this scene, she frowned. Are you trying to force him? Her voice wasn't loud, but carried a power that allowed no rebuttal. Richard and Victoria, seeing Sarah, flashed a trace of embarrassment and shame on their faces. Ms. Quinn, we have no other way. Having no way means you can emotionally blackmail him. Sarah walked to my side, holding my arm, looking at them coldly. Caleb has divorced Elena. He has no obligation to be responsible for your Vance family matters anymore. The reason Elena became like this today is her own psychological problem and the failure of your family education. What you should do is take her to a psychiatrist, not come here to force a person whose heart has been thoroughly broken by her to pay for her paranoia. Sarah's words were pearls of wisdom, leaving Richard and Victoria speechless. Julian, however, was unwilling. What do you know? You're just a latecomer, a third party who took advantage of the situation. You have no idea what past Caleb and Elena had. Smack. Another crisp slap. This time, it was Sarah who hit him. This slap is returning it for Caleb. Sarah looked at Julian, her eyes cold. What right do you have to dictate our relationship here? Who do you think you are? Julian covered his face, completely stunned. He probably never expected this seemingly gentle woman to be so fierce. I looked at Sarah protecting me in front, feeling warm inside. I backhandedly held her hand and said to the 3 Vance family members, "You leave. I won't go see Elena, not because of hate nor revenge, but because she and I are truly over. Forcing 2 people who no longer love each other together is torture for everyone. Let her go, and let yourselves go." With that, I pulled Sarah and turned back into the house. No matter how they cried and begged outside, I didn't open the door again. Some things must be cut off ruthlessly. Remaining connected only brings greater harm. After that day, the Vance family didn't come again. Our life returned to calm. I thought this matter just passed, until a month later, I received an anonymous package from States. Inside was a diary and a letter. The diary was Elena's. The letter was written by Abbot Silas. I opened the letter first. It said Elena passed away a week ago, at the ancient Wisdom Monastery in the Catskills. She found that place, kneeled before the Buddha for 3 days and 3 nights, not eating or drinking. Finally, the oil ran out and the lamp withered. She died in the Zen room I used to stay in. Abbot Silas said he found this diary while sorting her belongings. He thought I should see it. My hands began to tremble. I opened that diary with a yellowing cover. The handwriting inside was graceful and clear, Elena's handwriting. The diary started from 10 years ago, the day we got married. Today, I married Caleb, a fool who loves me very much. Sorry, Caleb, I can't love you, because my heart has been given to Julian. I can only use this way to preserve the dignity of the 3 of us. Married 1 year. Caleb treats me very well, so well that I feel guilty. He makes me breakfast every day, drives me to work, picks me up. He remembers all my preferences and every word I say inadvertently. Sometimes I even think if the person I fell in love with back then was him. How good would that be? Married 3 years. Julian is going abroad. I'm very sad. Caleb saw it. He didn't ask me why, just silently accompanied me, told me jokes, made me happy. At that moment, my heart seemed to move a bit. Married 5 years. I found I seemed to rely on Caleb more and more. I'm used to the breakfast he prepares every morning, used to seeing his warm, smiling face when I come home from work, used to his meticulous care when I'm sick. I even started to be jealous of those women who can openly hold his arm. Married 7 years. I seem to have fallen in love with Caleb. This thought makes me panic. I can't love him. I promised myself to keep myself pure for Julian. I owe him. I can't repay him in this life. Married 10 years. Caleb asked for a divorce. My world collapsed. I can't live without him. I only realize now, in these 10 years, he has long integrated into my life like air. Without him, I will die. The last page of the diary had only 1 sentence, written with her last bit of strength before dying. The handwriting was crooked, almost illegible. Caleb, I love you. If there's a next life, let me chase you. I looked at that sentence, tears no longer controllable, bursting like a dam. I hugged the diary tightly in my arms, crying heart-rendingly like a child who lost a beloved toy. So she loved me. She had long fallen in love with me. She was just trapped by her so-called oath and debt. She dare not love, couldn't love. So she could only use coldness and hurt to arm herself, to push me away. How tragic. How lamentable. Sarah walked up behind me at some point and gently hugged me. Cry out, she said. Cried out. It will be okay. I lay in her arms, wailing loudly. I cried for my lost 10 years of youth. I cried for Elena's pathetic obsession of a lifetime. I cried for the love and hate entanglement between us that went wrong by a strange combination of circumstances. Unknown how long I cried, I finally cried myself out. I wiped my tears and lifted my head from Sarah's arms. I'm okay, she said. Sarah looked at me and nodded. I know. I picked up that diary and the letter, walking to the fire pit in the yard. I threw them into the fire page by page. The firelight reflected on my face, and also reflected the clarity in the bottom of my eyes. Elena, Goodby. The love you gave me is too heavy. I can't afford it. Don't pay back what you owe me in the next life either. Because I don't want to meet you again. I just want to live this life well with the woman beside me. I turned around and walked towards Sarah. She stood in the sunlight, revealing those familiar, shallow dimples to me. I walked over and hugged her tightly. Sarah, thank you. Thank you too. We smiled at each other. Everything was understood without words. In the distance, the waves beat against the beach, making sounds of crashing tides. Like a melodious requiem, and also like a hymn of new life. Story complete.